Welcome to Mostly Mets. I'm Jimmy Mack, and today what I want to do is wrap up the opening series of the year against the Astros. Obviously, it did not go the way that any of us wanted it to, but listen, it's 3 games. It's the beginning of the season. It's not time to panic. I know there's already people kind of freaking out about this, but in all honesty, I think there was some good things that we saw during this series. Now, I'm going to kind of break down game by game. Obviously, game 1, Clay Holmes was not the same guy that we saw during spring training. He had problems with his command. He walked 4 batters. He just never seemed to really get comfortable. They were working long counts against him, and he just never really seemed to get his groove in the game. In the first inning, he was fine. He looked pretty good. And then after that, he just lost control. He lost his command. Those are the kind of things that Clay Holmes is kind of known for as a reliever. He has his good days and his bad days, and when he's bad and his command's not there, he struggles. And we're going to probably have to deal with that a little bit. A lot of pitchers are like that. But at the end of the day, I'm not that concerned about Clay Holmes. There was some good in there. I don't think he was completely horrible, but he definitely was not what we thought he was going to be coming out of a great spring training. Obviously, in that same game, the offense left 10 men on base. We saw Juan Soto get his first hit as a Met, which was nice to see right off the bat. But their offense just couldn't get it going. They only scored 1 run, and they just had some really ugly at-bats, whether it's Lindor or Alonso. They had a little rally there early in the game, but they could never string together hits. A bunch of them looked kind of lost at the plate. The bullpen was really good. You had Brazaban giving you 2+ innings, and they just really, and Danny Young too. Danny Young pitched in that game. Just scoreless innings. They gave you what they needed to give you, and I don't know that everyone expected them to be a really strong bullpen, especially those guys that were in the game. Those are kind of the back end guys. Those are the guys that are kind of mop up. Brazaban was the last guy put on the roster, so they looked really good in game 1 in the bullpen. Obviously, Clay Holmes struggled, the offense struggled, but the bullpen was a bright spot in that game. Now, moving on to game 2, a little bit of a different story, right? The offense still wasn't great. They got 3 runs, right? So, better than 1 in the first game. But they still didn't hit all that well. It was a home run by Soto. It was a little rally. So the offense still wasn't great, but they got the win. Tyler McGill was very good in that game. Listen, at the end of the day, it was a Tyler McGill kind of start. He cruised through 3 innings. This is something that happens with McGill a lot. He cruises the first time through the order. Then as he starts to see the same guys again 2-3 times is when he starts to struggle. But what I liked about what happened with McGill is that even when he started to struggle a little bit, he didn't completely fall apart. And the Astros lineup is pretty good. They weren't really hitting during this series, but they have a pretty good lineup. So him not falling apart against really good major league team is important to see. Maybe he is developing. Maybe that's always been a mentality thing to me, because it's not like his stuff changes from the 3rd inning to the 4th inning. It's just that maybe it's his own mentality or his own pitch sequencing that kind of hurts him. But he didn't fall apart and looked really good. Gave you 5 innings, only gave up 1 run. You can't expect any more than that out of McGill. That was a great start by him. Obviously, the bullpen then came in and shut it down with basically your A relievers. Minter, Stanek, Garrett, Edwin Diaz. Those are your A relievers. And they all performed extremely well. Diaz looked dominant at the end of the game. Way different guy than we saw just last week or 2 weeks ago in spring training. So he needs the regular season to really perform. And he looked really good. They got the win in game 2. I don't think there's much to say about this. There wasn't that much excitement, right? Other than the bullpen and McGill pitching well. The offense still was kind of non-existent. Couple hits, they haven't looked locked in yet in the first 2 games at least. All right, now in game 3, there was a lot of disappointment in this game. other than Griffin Canning pitching extremely well, and as well as I think anyone could have expected him to, or better than anyone really expected him to, going 5 2/3 innings, only giving up 1 run, a couple walks, couple hits, 4 strikeout. Like he was pretty good. Like if you're getting that type of production out of Griffin Canning against a lineup like the Astros, I think that shows that maybe he is a solid rotation piece. Now, I don't think he's an ace. I don't think he's going to win 20 games this year. But it shows that he's a usable piece in the rotation if he continues. But, hey, he looked great. Bullpen, obviously, also looked great. Max Kranick getting 2 huge outs, getting, Alvarez and Christian Walker there. That was unbelievable in his debut. I don't love that was the position he was put into. I don't think Mendoza necessarily used the bullpen well there. I think there was some questionable things. I love Mendoza. I'm not going to sit here and question him. But to me, that's a strange position to make your Mets debut if you're Kranick, right? To come in and face probably their 2 best hitters with the bases loaded. That's a little strange to me. Offense was awful. They got 1 hit. They did nothing all day. They looked terrible. Lindor looks bad. Pete looks bad. Nimmo looks bad. Even, I know Soto, he had their, he wasn't terrible, but he doesn't look that comfortable yet either. Soto, to me, looks like someone who's trying too hard. He's trying to be the guy. He's trying to be the one who does everything because he's trying to justify the contract. I think he'll get over that. I think he just needs to start being himself again. And he has not had he did not have a bad series at all. He just, in certain situations, he's looked like he's pressing a little bit, which is understandable. Early in the season, he's trying to prove that he deserves that contract. But I think he just needs to get back to being himself, and he will. I'm not worried about Juan Soto. And even if you look, he was probably the best player on offense the Mets had this series. So basically, overall, my real wrap-up for this series, there wasn't a ton to be excited about, right? I mean, I think in some ways there is, right? They lost 2 out of 3 to the Astros. The Astros are a good team. They could have easily won at all of these games. Either side could have swept. It was... If the Mets got a big hit in the first game, they could have won the first game. If the Mets got any hits in the third game, they could have won. But what I'll say is I'm not very concerned overall about how the Mets played because I know they're going to hit. They're too good of an offense not to hit. What I was concerned and what everyone was concerned about going into the season was the pitching. And the pitching in this series was great. Whether it was Tyler McGill, Griffin Canning, or everyone in the bullpen, everyone pitched well. So, other than Clay Holmes, who gave up 3 runs, only 2 of them earned, that's not even a bad start, right? It wasn't a great start. It wasn't what we expected, but it wasn't a bad start. So, I think people going crazy right now and panicking a little bit, you need to understand it's 3 games into the year. There's obviously guys that are probably not really ready to go. You look at Brandon Nimmo, and he's been really bad. Like, I know he has a couple hits, but he just has not looked good at the plate. He doesn't look comfortable. But he's also a guy who had very limited spring training at bats. He was hurt a big chunk of spring training. So I think he's probably just getting comfortable again. He's probably just getting, warmed up for the season. He wasn't necessarily ready to come out of spring training and play a full-time Major League schedule. So I think he'll start to get better as time goes on. We all know Lindor struggles for the first 6 weeks of every season. I don't love that, but it is what it is. And if he's going to be an MVP candidate the rest of the year, we have to live with it. And hopefully he snaps out of it. I think his wife being pregnant, about to give birth at any moment, maybe is playing something on him. Pete Alonso, I know a lot of people are mad at Pete because he didn't come through in the clutch in Game 3 and all that. But at the end of the day, I think his at-bats have been better. He has a lot of the at-bats he's had, I look at them and say he would have struck out on that at-bat 3 times last year. He's not swinging at that slider that's a foot off the plate. He's just not. He's not doing that anymore. He's missing pitches, but he's not flailing at pitches. So I think Pete will come around. I think we're in for a better season out of him, just the way he's looked in his at-bats. Even though there hasn't been a ton of hits, it's still been enough enough signs to show me that there's something there. Vientos looks a little behind. He did have a line out to end the game last night, but it's not as though he's looked very good. That was I know he has a double in one of the games, and he had that hard line out last night, but he hasn't really been hitting the ball that hard. He's been striking out a lot. He looks a little off. Hopefully that changes. Brett Beatty has looked awful, and this is a guy that I was really hoping that he could take his spring training into the regular season. He still can. It's 3 games. Like I said, I'm not overly concerned, but Beatty has looked really bad at the plate. Acuna hasn't looked great at the plate except for that 12-pitch at bat that he had against Hader, I believe, in the 9th in Game 1. And there's really not too many bright spots on offense. You could say Juan Soto. He's gotten a bunch of walks, which is what he does, right? I think he has 4 walks in the first 3 games. He's gotten a couple hits. He's gotten a home run. But overall, he hasn't done anything crazy. The lineup just hasn't really done anything. I don't expect that to continue, like I said. It's just, as of right now, it's been the weak spot. So I think if you look at kind of the key contributors in this series, the bullpen has to be, the top thing here. They had almost 10 innings pitched and haven't given up a run in the first 3 games. Every single pitcher has been used, and they've been great. They haven't given up a run. There's a little high wire act, a lot of walks and guys on base and things like that. But listen, at the end of the day, they haven't given up any runs. Also, seeing Canning and McGill pitch as well as they did against a good team like the Astros, that's impressive to me. That shows that maybe the rotation's going to be okay. Those guys can fill in just fine. Those guys can hold it together until we get healthy or Sproat comes up. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm comfortable now with them going into their next starts. I think they really impressed. And that's really it with contributors. It was really a bad series. But first one of the year doesn't mean anything going forward. They're still 1-2. The Braves are 0-3, I believe. So listen, anything can happen at the beginning of the season. We started off 0-5 last year and made it to the NLCS. So, not time to panic. Everyone just take it easy a little bit. But at the end of the day, that's really all I got today. We're going to move on to Miami. Obviously, they should be a team that we can kind of get right on, a team that you can hit against, a team that you shouldn't give up many runs against. But they have gotten 2 walk-offs in their first 3 games. So they're a feisty team like they always are. We'll see what happens there. And until next time, let's go Mets.